Welcome back to Boiler Wild, episode 14 of the Boiler Wild podcast. My name is Eric Johnson, and on this podcast, I talk about boiler industry topics as well as personal development, which I believe is very important to have a fruitful career, especially in the boiler industry. WILD is an acronym I came up with that stands for work hard, invest in yourself, lead others, and develop yourself into a person of excellence. Big believer that we can always improve as people, and we have the duty to improve and to improve those around us. So on this podcast, I want to talk about something that is always something that people talk about when they're in the skilled trades, but it's normally the people that are not the actual people doing the work. It's the advocacy people. And they talk about don't go to college or college is a waste of time. And there are a couple companies out there that have some interesting takes on college and market college to be bad or a scam. And it's not binary, I would say. I don't think anybody says it is, but when you make some very wild statements, now they, could be making those wild statements because that gets people talking about them. But it's people don't understand, I think, what somebody's going through that when they make the decision to go to college. And it's no secret that getting into the skilled trades is not super easy either. So let's get into it. This is something I see on LinkedIn all the time. A lot of the LinkedIn bros, the skilled trade LinkedIn bros that seem to, I wouldn't say they're an influencer, but they're talking about the skilled trades like they're the greatest thing ever, yet they do not work a actual manual labor job. And while they may have done it in the past, they make most of their content about how amazing blue collar work is, how insulated it is from AI, all the job opportunities, everybody making over 100K, all this stuff. And they seem to just miss all the negative parts of it. And then they highlight all the negative parts of college and I guess white collar jobs. But I don't know. I guess some advocacy is better than nothing. I mean, somebody's got to do it. But I would say, I mean, I do a little bit here and there, but I wouldn't say I'm for or against college. I would say it's a choice. And then people say, oh, like, well, college, it's worth it to go if you to get an engineering degree or like to become a doctor or a lawyer or something. But other than that, it's not worth it. And that is not taking into account other factors. So first, let's back up. Who goes to college traditionally? We are talking about 17 to 18-year-old people. I don't know if I want to call them kids. Technically 18 adult. But in 2025, an 18-year-old is a kid because we have typically babied them all the way through their life. So the American education system is set up that a kid starts preschool or kindergarten around 5 or whatever, and then they are in school every single year all the way till they are 18. All they know in their life is school. And hopefully that school is a positive experience. Hopefully they learn and grow. A big factor of that is their home life and their parents. But school is basically all a kid knows on what goes in and out of life. They go to school, they have summer break, they go to school, they have winter break. School runs their life. They also do sports, but school is center of life. And now you hit, say, 16, and you would be maybe a sophomore, and you are 2 years away from the end of this schooling, and you are only 16 years old, and you start seeing your friends and the people around you start saying, like, oh, like, what are you going to do after high school? Are you going to take the ACT? Are you going to take the SAT? Have you thought about going to college? Like, it becomes a conversation that's serious, and like, oh, and especially if you're kind of decent at sports, it's, well, are you going to play college sports? And it starts as a conversation, and then as a junior, you essentially decide if you are going to college or not. And I think people kind of forget this, because unless you go to like a standard state school that accepts a ton of people, you have to start applying to colleges the second half of your junior year. And normally, sorry, that may be a little early. You start applying to colleges in the summer or start in the fall of your senior year, if they don't accept applications for before that. But in order to do that, you would have had to visit those colleges. So you're normally visiting colleges over the summer, or visiting them your spring semester of junior year. You're thinking about it, you're having conversations, you're taking your state tests, your ACT, SAT, you're doing all your extracurriculars. You are prepping for it. And nowhere in that conversation is there, oh, you know what? I just want to finish high school and go to work. That is the hard decision at that point, because that is the unknown. Unless you have somebody in that field, or you have a person in a company that says, yeah, you can come get hired at our company and we have a career path for you, and you trust them. And that's why I still believe that blue collar there's so many family companies and family work, because the dad works in a job, and then the kid comes up, they see their dad, and that's all they know. And then they follow the same path, not because they've thought about it like too hard, but there's all kinds of different decisions that they can make, but they have that perspective, and it seems more normal to them. But to somebody whose parents work 2 white-collar jobs, went to college, and work in offices somewhere, and have no experience with like blue-collar work and skilled trades or anything, when you're in high school, you're not looking for that kind of work. And we have taken out of high schools all the shop classes and all like the fun classes, as for multiple reasons. I'm sure they exist, and I know there's like high schools out there that you can go to vocational school part-time and finish early, but that's not the majority of kids. The majority of kids sit through high school all 4 years with academic classes, and they're not experiencing any part of like wood shop or like welding or something like that, whatever they used to do. So now all somebody knows when you are 16, 17 is, I think I want to go to college. And then you talk to your friends. Say you have 10 good friends and all of them want to go to college too. So now you don't want to feel left out. So then you start applying to the same colleges, or maybe you split up. But there is a peer pressure to go to college because all you know is school, and you've been around people your age your entire life, and you have a very short life at that point, and school consumes you because you just don't know anything different. So now the easy decision is, yeah, let me just apply to colleges like my friends are doing, and I'll go to college. Some people do want to go to college. Some people don't know what else to do. But there's also the third option of some people just don't want to get a job right after high school because they think that they're going to end up in a dead-end job, which is very likely possible. So then they say, well, I can go to college. And what does college provide for them? College provides, let's say, a bachelor's degree. College provides a pathway, 4 more years of academics, which is all they know. And at the end of it, they say, you will have this degree, and this degree means something. And it's worth something in getting a job. And to a high school person, that is 4 more years of their life that is structured just how they've always known it. And that is the safe decision. That is all they know. Even if you go into crippling debt, you are not paying back those student loans during those college years. So you take out huge student loan payments. You barely know what money is at this point when you're 16, 17 years old making your college decision. And it's become normalized. Well, I'll just pay back my student loans. That's just what people have. Student loans are normal. It's not that bad. It's only 30 grand, 40 grand. I think the student loan, I don't have the averages in front of me, but a lot of people overestimate like what the average student loan. I think it's like 30 or 40 grand is the average student loan. A lot of the skilled trades advocacy bros, they will say, oh, you graduate college with student loan debt of $250,000. Like you're going to a private school and paying some big money if you're getting student loans of 250 grand. Like state schools are 15, 20 grand a year. I'm sure you can find cheaper, but like they're not crazy expensive that you're going to rack up 250,000 in debt. But those same people, they use the extreme numbers to make their case seem more strong, but it doesn't really add up when you break it down into what actually happens. So anyways, people sign the line and say, yep, I'm going to take out all these student loans, but they have security. College provides security for them, and that's a huge factor to young people who basically have no idea what money is, no idea what a real job is, and no idea what they really want to do with their life. So you could call it kicking the can down the road for 4 more years. Even if they have a major that they want to go in, that's just a major or an area of focus. That's what they think they want to do. But if you graduate high school and get a job, now you have to choose an exact job. And that can seem more of a decision than I want to work somewhere in this career. So for me, when I was in high school, I never even thought not going to college was an option. I went to college prep high school, and it was everybody goes to college, and I had classmates go to the Ivy Leagues and all that stuff. I went to it was an out-of-state school, but it was a state school. But I went to Ferris State University in Michigan. If you are familiar with either college hockey or their HVAC program, that's the only reason you would have heard of it, unless you are from Michigan. But they have a HVACR engineering technology program that is excellent. Would highly recommend it. And that is why I went there. I would do it again if I had to. But there was never this thought in my mind of, oh, I can go to work and join the trades right out of high school. Like, it never even crossed my mind, even though I was exposed to the blue collar industry my whole life. So obviously that's very individualistic for each person, but I think we're not factoring in peer pressure and safe decisions. It is a safe decision to go to college, even if you're taking out $100,000 in debt. You don't realize what $100,000 in debt is when you are signing your student loans. It is 4 more years of safe pathway, and that's all you know. Then another factor is are you a student athlete? So say you are, halfway decent in high school and you want to play more sports. Now you go to college. There's people that go to college to play more sports. They're not going to play professional, but they're good enough to maybe play D1, or, they get a scholarship for D2 or D3 or any of the divisions. But there's tons of scholarships out there for people who play sports but are not even close to good enough for being professional. And that's something young people love. If you play sports, going to college to play more sports for 4 more years is a very fun thing to do. And it's normal to say like, oh, well, I know I'm not good enough to be professional, but, I can get a scholarship that maybe pays 50% of the bills or something, and I'll do it for 4 more years, and then I'll play recreational or whatever, and kick the can of adulthood and a real job down the road. If you love sports and turn 18 and then say like, oh, like I want to keep playing, like, you can play in an adult league, but it's going to be very, very minor of what adult leagues you have. You might have a softball, a baseball, soccer, but there's way more college sports than that. So, but I would say, student athletes, that's probably a minimum percentage of actual people that go to college are student athletes. But at the same time, like, there's millions of student athletes out there. And I would say the people who play sports are the best people who are primed for the most experience for skilled trades work. They struggle with others. They do hard things. They have some sort of discipline. They do more than what is required of them. And like, all the qualities that somebody builds up when they are playing sports translates over to life in general very well, but also the skilled trades very well. But those same people don't have a pathway after high school to play sports unless they go to college. So now they go to college. That's 4 more years and they get a degree. And another thing we don't think about is like the sunk cost fallacy of, I'm going to college, I want to work in this area, I want to get a degree in this area. And now that you spent 4 years trying to get a degree in an area, it will probably take some time for you to realize that maybe you don't want to work in that area, even if you graduate with that degree and hate it. you are probably going to work, maybe 5 to 10 years in that field, maybe bumping around jobs, but you're going to jump around. You're never going to, most people, I would say, and I don't know this for a fact, but I would say most people are not going to graduate college with a degree and be like, yep, that was fun. I got a degree in this, but I'm not going to pursue a career in that field. I'm going to go try something new. Like, that's normally not what people do. If you're in college, and I knew a couple of these people, they thought they knew what they wanted to do freshman year, and then sophomore year it got a little harder, and then they realized they didn't really want to do what they were doing. They changed their major to another path, but they were still on the same track to graduate in 4 years. And you can change your major, which is very easy to do in college, and that leaves you to pursue a different career field and different degree without committing to an employer, without committing to a job area. So that's just other things I think we're not factoring in beyond the supposedly amazing skilled trades. There's also the parents. If you have parents that work in white collar jobs, work in an office, they both went to college, they are going to push you to go to college because that's what's normal to them. And the parents of college age people right now are born in the 70s, 80s, and have experience of basically living in the era of, you don't want to work in that factory like your dad, go to college and be the first generation to go to college. So that was really, I think the push for college really started in the 80s, and they have a strong opinion on a 16, 17 year old kid. And who is the kid going to listen to? Their parents' opinion or some recruiter at a union hall or a company or somebody online? Like, they're going to take their parents' opinion over all those things. And like I've said, kids are going to do the path of least resistance. It may not sound like it, but going to college is the path of least resistance after high school. Kids don't know what they want to do most of the time, or they're forced to figure out, like, I have to figure out what I want to do for the rest of my life, and I have to make a decision now, and I can't screw it up. And then, they go to college for something. Not going to college, you graduate and you're 18, and now what? Do you go apply for a factory job that you get paid $22.49 an hour and you get 5-cent raises every year? Like, that's pretty depressing future, and a lot of kids aim higher than that. And they also, like, the cost of living, like, that's pretty hard. And what else do you do? Do you go apply to a company, and maybe that company, is an electrical company. Hey, we're trying to hire electricians, and you go apply there. Most of the time, they will say, oh, like, you don't have any experience. Like, we're going to hire somebody with experience over you, or hire somebody that's older over you. Even if they did hire you, do they have a training path or a career path to train you up? And most companies do not have a career path to train you up, and it ends up with a sink or swim mentality. Even if they have the most honest intentions, to a 18-year-old person being shocked by entering into I would say real life, but entering into the job market, now working with adults that have been alive double the amount of years that they have even been alive. It's a shocking function, and it can be a lot for a younger person who is not ready for that. And then you work 6 months and you hate it and you don't feel like you're getting anywhere, and you end up, throwing or just carrying somebody's tools, and you don't see any growth and you quit. And then you're like, well, what else do I want to do? Well, then there's another pathway of the union. You can join the union, but I've never been a part of the union, but there's pros and cons to the union. And it's not like you just walk into a union hall and you say, hey, I want to join. And they say, all right, sign up. You start tomorrow. Like, there's application processes. There's application windows. They only take so many apprentices, and there's all kinds of like, oh, do you know anybody in the union? And like, there's waiting lists. Like, it's not as easy as people make it seem of just, yep, sign up. And now you're signing up for something that's unknown. You can talk to a recruiter, but if a younger person who is in high school or has just graduated high school doesn't have a relationship with somebody that's in the union, or like a friend, or a parent's friend or something, like a recruiter talking to them, like they've listened to college recruiters the last 3 years, 4 years of their life. It's the union recruiters, while they may do a good job, it's not as appealing as colleges. There's still the belief that college leads to higher paying jobs, which it does. There'll be people that tell you, oh, well, I make, over 100 grand a year, and I'm an electrician. And yes, there's people who do that, but there's also electricians who make 40 grand a year and work in a 100-degree warehouse or in the rain and in the cold. Like, there are tons of skilled tradespeople who do not even make close to 100 grand a year. I don't have the numbers, but the 100 grand figure is one. I hate when people say round numbers. So the only people say 100 grand because it sounds cool. I make 6 figures. That sounds cool. Like, why not 90 grand? Why not 110 grand? Whenever you say 100 grand, you can make 100 grand. Like, it's just a round figure. It sounds cool. It doesn't mean much. Also, in 2025, 100 grand is not that much money. By the time Uncle Sam and everybody digs through your pockets, 100 grand goes real quick. I know, the average medium household income, I think, in the United States is like 45,000 or something. So 100 grand seems like a lot, but it's not the boat and camper and huge house riches that most people think it is. There's the other side of that also, where the 100 grand normally comes with a lot of overtime. And younger people, they can, maybe have a high school girlfriend or something, or maybe get married young, maybe some kids. And, now the company asks you to, oh, well, you have to travel all the time. Or, we work 6 days a week, 7 days a week, 7/12s. Or, you got to be on call every other week, or, whatever. Like, there's all these other schedule stuff that's less than ideal. Nobody ever says, oh, I love working 80 hours a week for, on somebody else's schedule. And then all of a sudden, you have these young people who feel like they're wasting the best time of their life working and not able to do anything else. And then they look on social media and all their friends are having fun in college, and then they feel like they're missing out. Like, there's that kind of pressure too. There is also another thing we got to think about is relationships. So going to college, probably the biggest benefit is relationships. You have been with people your same age all the way up through high school. You turn 18 and you're now with people generally your same age the next 4 years. And you meet way more people, but you now are moving away from home, most likely. Most people move away from home, live next to people that are same age, that are in the same situation. You live next to freshmen in a freshman dorm who are, all single or have a girlfriend. Nobody's really going to get married at that point in time. You're all generally in the same life situation, which makes it very easy to have conversations, to build relationships, to bond with people. And then you build friend groups. And now you have 4 years of that relationship with people that, can help you after college and, whatnot. There's many people that meet their spouses in college. Relationships is probably the number one benefit to college. Now, take that with somebody who doesn't go to college. You are 18, you graduate high school, it's May, end of May, June. So now it's June, and you just, got through your senior year. You say goodbye to all your friends. All your friends are around for the summer. You screw around for the summer, and by mid-August, all your friends have packed up. They all posted their moving in days and moving in pictures for going to college. And you are sitting there in your parents' house mid-August, and you're like, well, what do I do now? And you apply places, but you can't get a job because a lot of people are not taking young people with no experience. And you end up thinking, like, I want to get into this industry, but I don't know how. Go on Reddit, go on Facebook. There are tons of posts about, hey, I want to get into HVAC, but the company won't hire me because they said I have no experience. The company won't hire me. I want to be an electrician, but they won't hire me because I have no experience. So now you're 18, young. It's the fall after your senior year, and all your friends have moved away. You may have a couple friends nearby, and you feel alone. You feel you still live with your parents. If your parents haven't kicked you out yet, but most people would live with their parents still. You go get a local job at a restaurant or something, but it's a dead end job. It's not a career, and you are trying to maybe the job you want or career you want you can't get into, or they're not hiring. So you get a dead end job, and all of a sudden a year later you still have that job. You're still living with your parents. Your social circle is way less. You may have a couple friends from high school that are still around, but most of your friends went to college, and you feel lonely. No socialization among young people around you like there was. You just went through 15 years of socialization for 9 to 10 months every single day for 7 hours, and now you have nothing. You are meeting people all walks of life, all ages of life, and you're adapting to the real world, and it can be very lonely. And people will go like, where do I meet young people? So then you go to the bar and you get involved with alcohol and whatnot, but that doesn't lead to a great career most of the time. And you end up feeling like you're not doing anything with your life, or you're not getting a career that you want. And like all this, that's all like negatives to, well, I went to college and I'm around people my age. We have a good time, and I have 4 more years to figure out my life and get a degree that supposedly will get me a better job. And like, that's all true. And there's tons of office jobs that pay 150 grand a year and you work 40 hours and you work in an air conditioned office. So like, that's also a thing. Like, and if you know people that do that, they'd be like, well, why would I sweat my life away working 80 hours a week to make 90 grand and freeze in the winter and overheat in the summer when you go to an office or when you work from home? And then to the extreme of that is people and young kids go on social media, Instagram, and they see all these influencers and people making ridiculous money, and they think like why can't that be me? I'm making $18 an hour doing whatever at a dead end job, and this person is throwing up ridiculous videos and reels and stories and buy this with my code, and they're making 10 grand a month. And 10 grand a month to somebody who's 18, 19, that's like you might as well say it's $1 million a month, because at that point, like, they haven't really made money in their life. They don't even know what a job is. Most kids are not getting jobs till after high school. Even if they have a job in high school, you are probably working in the service industry, and you only make, you might make $5,000 in the summer, and that's a ton of money. With how labor laws have gone, like, you can't bring kids onto a construction site, or you can't bring kids into a factory, and like, that used to be a thing. Like, kids used to be exposed to that. You used to be able to hire high schoolers to do some part-time work. Like, it's all gotten a lot harder, and also American culture has changed to the point where most kids just do not get a job till after high school, or they go to college, and then they can go to college and still get a part-time job. But college is the safe option, and I don't see, so how do we change this? I don't see how we change that. So the federal government kind of screwed up the college model when they have funded all the student loans. And when you have billions of dollars going into education and pushing for higher education, and you have sports culture around higher education, like, it's very, very attractive for younger people to do it. And nobody that's young, you're young, you're a dreamer, you still have hopes and dreams for life. Nobody says, you know what, I want to go work a dead end factory job in my town. That's really what I want to do with life. Like, that's not what people aspire to be. And young people these days want to have purpose, want to be led, want to be a part of something bigger than themselves. And getting a dead end job in their town that is probably a job that's sub ideal, even if it is in the skilled trades, is probably not the first thing on their mind. And they don't have a frame of reference. So everybody that's saying, well, I wish I didn't go to college, or don't go to college, they are 30, 40 years old. You are now looking in the past, and it's easy to say hindsight's 2020. Your career is working out for you, or it's not working out for you. Say you're 30 years old and you still have 60 grand in student loans, and you're not working in a career field with your degree. Most people would say, well, yeah, don't go to college. But they also have forgotten the benefits of college, and also why they went to college at that time. It's easy to say you're not going to spend money when the investment didn't pay off 10 years later. But if you worked if you were 30 and working in an office making $200K a year, you would say absolutely go to college. So there's a bias there of whether college benefited you or not, which is all up to personal decision. And that's where it really comes down to. It's personal decision, but college is the safe path for a 17-year-old high schooler in America. And another thing I should touch on is also if you are coming from a less than ideal family that maybe hasn't had somebody that goes to college, or poorer families, or I don't even know what you call them, but there is a push, if you are academically smart, of go to college, go get a career, get out of dead-end jobs. We all work dead-end jobs. And there is a pride of being the first generation to go to college. That's, I've made it. My kid got into college. They're going to college. They're going to be somebody. They're going to have a career. They're going to start making real money. Like, that's also a thing as well. So, you're not going to have that with skilled trades. Oh, yeah, I became an electrician when I was 18. Like, nobody cares. Nobody brags about their kid becoming an electrician at 18. But tons of parents say, oh, yeah, my kid, he got into Harvard, or he went to college for the first time. Like, I worked my whole life so that, I worked 2 jobs so that we could afford for him to go to college. And now he's a first generation college person. And there's a pride to that. But college is safe for young people. You have 4 more years being around people that are your age and are of the same life stages. Most people are single, have relationships, but very few people are going to be married in college. There's on the girl end, for women, there's the MRS degree. They don't. That's a thing. If you're unfamiliar, the MRS degree, Mrs. There's tons of women that go to college that just want to find a guy to marry and, not get a corporate job. They don't have any dreams of being, in the corporate world after college. They just want to be a wife, stay-at-home mom, raise kids. That's great. But if you graduate high school at 18 and all your friends go off to college and you're sitting around your hometown and you're like, where am I going to find all the great guys? They're the greatest concentration of great guys is at college. Young people do not have social groups and social gatherings of single young people in any denser population than college. College is the only thing that offers that. And now you have all your friends are getting into relationships, all this stuff. And you're sitting around, you're 18, you're 19, you're 20, and you're like, man, I'm missing out on life. I'm 20 years old. What am I doing with my life? I'm not working a career. And you see all your friends. There's that social pressure of, I can't meet anybody. My town doesn't have anybody around me. Where are all the young people? So then you get on the, social or dating apps, and you're not getting anything from that. And social media, you go on social media and you feel like you're a failure. College, I think people just don't, they're not saying it. And this is just what I think, but college is the easy social pressure to go. And the education in America, the education system, guidance counselors, most of them are push kids to college. Many high schools are graded on how many kids that graduate that go to college. And when you reward that, don't be surprised when that keeps happening. So until the money from the government and education system stops pointing to colleges, which I don't think it will unless the dollar completely implodes. I don't know what's going to happen with this AI thing, but I if you could find a way to have a semi-densely populated area of young people that was a skilled trades career or a pathway that was easy, that wasn't college, but was something else, even community college. People say like, oh, go to community college. Community college is cheaper, but most community college, you're going to be living at home. And when you're 18, 19 years old, you're probably sick of your parents. You're ready to go stretch your wings. All your friends are at college, living their life in the dorm or, sophomore, junior year. They're moved away. They have their own house. Like they're independent. Like there's that social pressure. So, when you're 18, 19 years old, you're ready to go live on your own, but you can't afford an apartment and you feel stuck. So that's what I think. I don't know what the answer is. One, follow the money. All the money right now in the US education system rewards college. Two, we are so broken up relationship wise for society. Once you enter the real world, even ask adults, even in my experience, where do I, I'm 31, where do I meet other 31-year-old-ish people? I don't know. You go out and you're like, where are all the young people? There's not. You got to consciously join different groups or go to the gym and all this stuff, but it still doesn't lead to relationships like college would. So that's what I think about college. Is college worth it in 2025? Yes, if you make it worth it, but also like go to a school that gives you a degree for the best bang for your buck. Unless you're getting college paid for, or you can get a ton of scholarships, going into huge debt for college is not super smart. But if you can get a college degree for less than 50 grand, I think that's worth it. The relationships are worth it. You could meet your spouse. Like, how many people meet their spouse in college and say, I don't work in my career anymore, but I would have never met them, so it was worth it. Like, that's hindsight 2020. Like, the pains of student loans are every month, but they met their spouse and they have 2 kids now. Like, they enjoy it. So yeah, I mean, that's something to think about. The skilled trades aren't all happy and smiley like all the skilled trade bros will tell you. There's tons of people working dead-end jobs that are in skilled trades with no career advancement, with no training, with no support from the companies, that get shafted by their companies, that don't know any better. And, they would say, the unions would say, well, you need to join the unions. Well, there's pros and cons to everything. And I'm not pro-union or anti-union, but I don't know enough about it. But even within the unions, it depends on where you are in the country and what skill you want to be in. If your local union is a strong union and represents you well and has good work, like there's, a very pro-union part of the country would be like Chicago or New York City or, California. And then, Arizona, I don't believe unions are super strong. North Dakota, South Dakota, Wyoming, like it all depends where you live. And there's no right or wrong answer, which makes it very hard for young people to decide, which makes college all the more appealing answer because you don't have to make a decision beyond, I'm going to go to this college And then when you show up, you meet 5,000 people your age, plus or minus 4 years around you, and you're living away from home. You feel independent for once. You can go have fun. You go to your classes. You meet new people. You feel like you're exploring and adventuring, something you've never done in life up to this point. And it's exciting. Not something that the skilled trades normally offers. Even if you join a union, you're 18, 19, probably still living with your parents. And, you may move out, get an apartment. Depends on where you live if you can afford an apartment. Rents are higher than ever. Forget about buying a house. You're never going to save up to buy a house that early in life. So, it's college. College is the easy way. But there's opportunity in skilled trades. You got to get right. You got to get with the right company. You got to like it. Like, there's plenty of people that get into skilled trades, hate it, hate the culture, and leave and go do something else. Like, it's not an easy spot to work. If you're, a lineman, electrician, welder, like, the job's got to get done. You can't show up to the office hungover on a Friday and sit at your desk and pretend to type in numbers and do paperwork, chat with your coworkers, and just mail it in. Like, if you're a welder, you gotta get those welds out. You gotta pull your wires as an electrician, terminate your wires as a boiler person. If you're a service technician, you gotta go service and make decisions and PM boilers. If you're a stationary engineer, like, it's more active work and active thinking than, some office jobs where sometimes you're not closely monitored with what you're doing and there's no real progress measurement of what you did that day, which, also the same thing with people working from home. That's a different topic for another day, but you can work from home and say, oh, I was available, but you end up being more of a backboard instead of advancement. You reply to emails, you get on calls, you're in meetings, but you're not actually doing something that advances the company forward. You're just kind of a cog, which, if you're in the skilled trades, you are achieving a job. I have to fix this boiler and, write a service report, and now the company can bill for it. Or, I have to maintain this boiler. I'm a stationary engineer. I got to watch the boiler so that this boiler can keep running so that, we can provide heat to the campus or whatever. Like, there's a little bit more like active focus on like what your job is. Not saying that like a traditional white collar work doesn't mean anything or, you don't have purpose, but there's tons of white collar people that don't know where their job is in the company. Like, when I type in numbers in the spreadsheet, like, what am I actually doing? Like, if I don't type in these numbers, like, what happens? If I don't show up to these meetings, like, what happens? Does the company stop making money? No. But like, if you're a service technician for a HVAC company, for a boiler company, like, you show up, you fix somebody's air conditioner, you fix somebody's boiler, like, there is an immediate feedback reward there. That's just some of my thoughts, maybe a rant, but we have to, if we are going to grow the skilled trades, we have to think outside of, oh, you can make $100,000 a year in the skilled trades. Statistically, that's not true for the majority of people, but the biggest resistance to the skilled trades right now is a structured learning path and companies with leadership that young people want to work for. That's my thoughts. If you love the podcast, want to hear me ramble and stumble over my words more, please rate it 5 stars. that would be great. Love a 5-star review. That helps me out. Trying to get rich and famous doing podcasting on boilers. That's my joke of the week. But if you have recommendations for podcast topics, you want to be a guest, or you want somebody else to be a guest and have a guest recommendation, email me at eric.johnson@boilerin.com. If you are on LinkedIn and we're not connected yet, send me a connection request, DM me, tell me about your job. I always love to meet and talk with people, even virtually. Like, I am trying to learn. Like, I don't know everything. I'm the first to admit I don't know everything. Definitely not the smartest person. I'm trying to figure this out. If you don't already know, I should probably mention, I founded a company about 2 years ago called Boilearn, Boilearn. It is the word boiler and learn kind of combined. It's a fake word, but now it's a company. We do training for boiler competency, boiler systems for operators, end users, and contractors, online training and in-person training. And I'm figuring it out, trying to be a part of the solution, not talk about the problem and how we're short 500,000 people by the year 2030 and all this stuff. Trying to be part of the solution, trying to provide pathways so that young people can get into the trades, get into the boiler world, and grow, and we can develop people with support around them instead of the good old figure it out attitude. So anyways, if you made it this far, you're a gem. I appreciate you for listening, and stay wild.